Hi, my name is Craig and I'm the founder of a company called TribalMind. TribalMind is a social learning and problem solving platform. And what we do is we track your digital footprint as you try and solve a problem online. And then we use that digital footprint to teach other people how to solve similar problems and to improve decision making going forward. Our vision at TribalMind is to see if we can equip the world with more knowledge that's actually readily available on the internet. If you think of it, there is so much knowledge already littered around all of the domains across the world. How can we take that knowledge? How can we harvest it? And how can we make it more meaningful in a way? It's not just assets lying around, but more meaningful for somebody sitting in Nigeria, for example, or for somebody who's trying to learn how to solve some complex problem sitting in another country that doesn't have access to this type of information. And the way we look at it is that a lot of other online platforms assume that you already have the skill, assume that you have the knowledge. Well, what TribalMind does is, we assume that you don't have the knowledge. And we take a step back and we say, well, how can we actually get the knowledge to you so that you can become more marketable? And then how can we link you up with those people that need those types of insights, that need those types of problem solvers? So first we want to equip you, and then we want to market you to the industry. So what I want to do is just take you through a short journey on the whiteboard to just give you an idea of how TribalMind actually works in the online space. So what we have here is a learning journey. And in essence, let's take an example. Someone like myself who's starting a business. So here's Craig. He has a number of activities that he needs to do in order to start a successful business on this side. Now remember, TribalMind deals with all types of problems. So let's just talk through this particular case study and you can see its benefits. But now, as I'm trying to travel this journey, I do quite a bit of research. I go online and I run a whole bunch of Google searches. And I'm looking for information, and it could be around doing a SWOT analysis, it could be around doing a competitor analysis, any of those aspects. And I start to document my current journey in a variety of tools. Perhaps I'll watch some YouTube videos that I find are quite relevant. I might be online and I might be in a mobile context and I might think of an idea. Well, I might drop it in Evernote and I might put some ideas down there. I also use a variety of other tools like Word, like PowerPoint, like OneNote. We don't have a shortage of tools that we can use in order to take the information that we discover and learn more about our world. And specifically within things like the PDF documents and document annotation. And what I have often, and I'm sure you're the same, is if I'm in an elevator, I have an idea, like, oh, okay, how do I remember that idea? And I normally just get my phone out and I'll email it to myself. So there's all these ideas on the fly, and how am I capturing those ideas? And I'll have a whiteboard session. I'll take a photograph of a whiteboard. All these are channels of information. But the problem is all of this information that I've discovered and that's relevant to my particular problem is scattered around a variety of tools. It's on my laptop, it's on my iPad, it's in the cloud somewhere, and I haven't really brought meaning to it. I also have a Kindle app, for example, and all of the comments and threads that I have in my Kindle, all the books that I've read, they're lying in Kindle and I'm not able to actually use them effectively yet. Well, the way that TribalMind works is basically, as you run your Google searches, you can actually submit these into your learning journey within TribalMind. You can take notes on certain meetings, and those notes we can drop in here, but that are specifically relevant to this problem. I can watch a video, and I can upload a video, but that particular video is specifically relevant to this problem in the following way. So I call out a few sort of key points from the video. Same as other documents that I might want to bring in. I'm going to only take bits of those documents that are relevant to this particular problem. So for example, I could read a PDF document about tax law as I'm trying to set up my company. And from that particular document, maybe there's one or two bits of information that are relevant. But there's other bits of information in that document that are perhaps relevant to another timeline. So this document itself has another timeline on this side, and there's maybe another bit of information that's relevant in that particular learning journey that I'm interacting with. But what I'm doing is I'm actually going through a process of constructing knowledge, using my own lens, my own way of interpreting all of the documentation that I've worked with. Even whiteboard photographs, all of those things is what I'm working with. And what we're doing is we're assembling this learning journey to arrive at the end point, which is to solve this particular problem. Now along the way, I get introduced to a whole variety of other ideas. So, for example, my venture capitalist company says, oh, well, we'd like you to use the business model canvas to help you understand your business model better. So now we introduce the canvas into the equation, and the canvas produces an insights into my business model. Well, maybe there's certain tax people that you need to have an interaction with, all right? Well, these tax people I meet with, and they explain to me how to set up corporate structures and those types of things. Well, out of the 2-hour meeting that I have with them, there's really only 3 or 4 bullet points that are relevant to me starting a business. So it's only those couple of points that I'm gonna work with, that I want to be able to interact with. Now, along the way, we also can leverage the wisdom of the crowd. And TribalMind is a cooperative platform. It's not a collaboration platform. And what do I mean by cooperative platform? Is it says, well, you know, everybody's doing their own selfish things. And somewhere along the line we see, hold on, Ben and Mary over there, they're doing something that's similar to what you're doing. And it looks like what they're working with might be able to help you solve your problem. As opposed to a collaborative platform which says, well, we've all got this one problem, let's all pull together and try and solve that problem together. So that's the difference. So we're a cooperative platform, allowing your friends and your colleagues to just sort of deviate and carry on doing their own things out there in the digital space. But along the way, one of my friends, or a group of my friends that are traveling a journey, they discover a really interesting TED video on how to create viral marketing. And what they do is they take this TED video and they say, well, Craig, we think that this is relevant for your marketing, and they drop it in here. I watch it, and there's a few key points that I produce from that video. Now, the wisdom of the crowd also means that I can invite this crowd into this particular journey, and they can vote and provide comments and score and rate different comments from different people, basically allowing the wisdom of the crowd to give an input into, well, what bits of information here are relevant to the whole crowd in order to solve that particular problem. Now, along the journey, there's actually access to a number of individuals that would have traveled this path before me, because if I'm the first one to travel this journey, well, then I've captured that journey and I can use it to teach other people how to travel a similar path. But in this particular case, there's a variety of other individuals that have actually traveled this journey before me and started a company. Well, what I can actually do is I can bring these people on board as mentors, and I can invite them into my journey. And we're working on an economic system which looks at how can they share information with you in order to uplift you, so they can coach and mentor you within this particular cycle. And the weightings and scorings that they provide are more relevant to the particular problem space that you're working with than maybe yourself and other tribal team members. So there's a mentoring environment which allows me to bring in these particular individuals as we're traveling along this journey. So now that I've traveled this journey, what I've actually done is I've captured Craig's perspective of how to string together all of these bits of information in a particular way to solve this particular problem. In this case, it was starting a business. And we call these heuristics, and we've got some interesting maths behind it that looks at the heuristics and the way that you've traveled the journey and the way that you've summarized data, and in effect produces a summary of relevant points for you around, well, what was the key bits, the key heuristics and key rules of thumb that came out of that particular journey that Craig traveled. Now, the challenge here is that Craig's actually quite different from everybody else. And my behavioral patterns are different, my personality is different, how I learn is quite different. So what we actually do in the beginning is as you sign up, we actually get you to run a few personality profiles. And they range from playing a game, which gets you to run a restaurant for 5 minutes and we map your brain and how you think, to just doing some of the traditional personality and behavioral profile tests. And we overlay that information onto this journey so that we can actually see, well, Craig is actually a rational person who thinks in the following way, and he's actually a visual learner, and you can see by me waving my arms that I'm that type of person. Well, if we're going to match other people that do similar things, well, we have to find those people and profile them as well. And what we do is we capture this journey through the lens of Craig and his personality and all his behavioral attributes. So now I have this particular journey, and it's a journey on how to launch a successful business in the organization. It's strung together all the rules of thumb of how to do it, all the shortcuts. That means you don't have to read all these documents. You don't have to go and watch all of these videos. I've traveled that path already for you, and I've pulled some key sort of summary points out of this. And it's been produced as a summary. Now, if somebody else comes along later on, and let's say they want to start a successful business in Australia, well, do they have to travel this journey all over again? Or can they really just come to the end here? And now they can actually see, based upon all of the summarized rules of thumb, well, what were the key shortcuts that Craig, who's a very similar person to me, actually had achieved. Now, they don't just have to stop there. Well, if they're curious, they can actually come back into my journey and they can see all of the videos, all of the call-outs, all of the commentary, all of the learnings that came from the tribe, and then branch out and even go and interact with some of the other pieces that have been shared and submitted into this space. So it allows her to travel that entire journey, but it also gives her accelerated knowledge. So it's valuable to me because I can make meaning out of all of this noise. All of this fragmented information that I've got littered across all of my platforms, I can bring meaning to it and I can put it in a single place and I can structure it in a way that I find relevant. So I won't actually forget anything. And part of the value proposition is you never lose a thought. You can send it to your journeys, your different journeys, and they've captured. And even if it's a to-do list or something, you've got the source of it, you can trace it back, you can link it, invite your friends to comment on it. You never lose a thought within TribalMind. So I've got the value from that perspective. This girl gets the value because she doesn't have to travel this path all over again. And then other companies, or perhaps my venture capital company, or if you do this within an organization, they've got huge value because you've taken a whole bunch of assets that have littered across the internet and within your organization, and you've given them meaning, and you've produced a learning journey that will show you how to launch a successful business into the marketplace. Right, so once you've actually finished your journey, you've actually built some credibility. You've built some credibility with your tribe and with how you've interacted with them and how they've rated and scored your commentary. And what this has shown is, well, this is a particular problem that Craig has solved, and his peers have peer voted him. And we run leaderboards and those types of things which allow you to score around, well, sort of how good is Craig at solving these types of problems, and how have his friends recommended him. And what it does is it allows you to share these in a way that's a little more accurate than some of the traditional ways of sharing skills online. We've actually got validated proof from peers around the particular problems that you've dealt with and how you've solved them. And as your reputation increases, you become more valuable, and individuals looking for your previous learning journeys that you might have traveled to solve problems there's a high demand basically for those journeys that they can learn from. So in other words, 5 years from now, when Craig Martin's successful and on the cover of Time magazine and those types of things, there's value in other people seeing, oh, this is the journey that Craig took from that. And it's been validated by industry as well as his peers and his colleagues. Can I use that and can I consume that information in order to launch another successful business into the Australian marketplace? What about somebody in Africa who kind of sees this journey and maybe they want to launch a successful business? Well, they can learn from us who've maybe done it within this context. We can learn from them around a reverse innovation of how they've possibly launched successful businesses in a third world country, and well, how can we learn from those particular aspects of the market? So this is this ecosystem that we're actually creating to try and learn from one another and leverage these learning paths and journeys that each of us is traveling every day in an informal manner.